Hey everybody, welcome back and thanks for checking out another video. Today is a requested video where we talk about my initial thoughts and impressions about the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare that will be coming out later this year. A little bit of a quick backdrop before we get into it. While I've been uploading some Apex Legends and some Fortnite and some other different games, I am a Call of Duty veteran through and through. I've been playing this game both casually and mostly competitively for much of the last decade, and I feel like I've built the majority of this channel just based on my in-game knowledge, my game sense, and my ability to understand Call of Duty straight down to its core. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and hop right into my impressions. Now I will also say I didn't put this in any order. I didn't do the good, the bad, the ugly, good stuff, pros, cons, whatever like you see in a lot of videos. I really just jotted down the things that I thought were most noticeable in the games, and that's what we're going to talk about. So very first thing I want to talk about is the time to kill. So time to kill is obviously just like it sounds, how fast you die in the game, and I thought Black Ops 4 had this done pretty well. It wasn't super fast, but it wasn't extremely slow either. This game seems way too fast. As you're watching the footage that's behind here, just kind of take a look. You almost never see somebody get turned on. You almost never see somebody not finish a kill. You almost never see somebody start to get shot, go behind cover, jump back out, and then reverse that kill. It seems like if you start getting shot in this game, you basically die. Unless, of course, you're missing all of your bullets, but for the most part, with people with really good accuracy, so far it seems like if you're shooting somebody and you make contact with your bullets, that person is going to die, and there's not really much that you can do about it. Now, I do just want to throw this in and preface this just kind of as a disclaimer. This is really just kind of like an alpha build, so a lot of what I'm telling you about today could very easily be changed even by the time the beta comes out in early September. So take everything with a grain of salt, as a lot of this could change, such as the time to kill, the hit points, the damage on the gun, stuff like that. But as it stands right now and in the video that you're watching in the background, time to kill is way too fast. Moving on, next thing I want to talk about is game speed. So from the very first trailer that I watched, the very first release trailer, this just seemed to play super slow. And we can take this with a little bit of a grain of salt because, first of all, nobody wants jetpacks, right? Nobody wants the advanced movement like what was in Advanced Warfare a long time ago. But you also don't want it to be too slow. You don't want it to feel clunky or like Battlefield. So this game, it just doesn't seem to have that fluidity that the classic Call of Duty games have. It seems a little bit more like it's Battlefield in a way. Every single time that I watch this game, I just want things to be moving quicker. I just want people to be jumping further. I just want things to be a little bit more sped up, and they're not. So I don't know exactly how this is going to play with the Call of Duty community, but to me, I want things to be a little bit faster, and this game just seems a little bit slower, a little bit clunky, and who knows? I don't know if that'll be a good thing or a bad thing. Nobody really knows, but if you're talking about comparing it to classic Call of Duties, it just seems a little bit slow, and that's really all that we can say about it. Next thing I want to talk about, which is one of my biggest gripes about this game, is that you no longer have score streaks, you now have kill streaks. Just a little bit of a baseline here. The way that you've earned your UAVs and your care packages and whatnot has changed over the course of different Call of Duty games. We've had point streaks, we've had score streaks, and we've had kill streaks. So the way that it's currently done in Black Ops 4 is you have score streaks. So what that means is, of course, you earn a score based on getting kills and stuff like that, but you also earn score towards your streaks based on getting kills in the objectives, capturing objectives, time spent in objectives, stuff like that. So what this does is it promotes gameplay inside the objectives. The way that it used to be done way back in Call of Duty 4 and stuff like that is they used to be kill streaks, and this was changed for a very good reason. So the only way, for example, say you're going for a chopper gunner and it's a 9 kill streak. I don't know exactly what it is. I'll put it up on screen, but say you're going for a 9 kill streak. You have to get 9 kills in order to get that chopper gunner. So If you're at 7 kills and you know that you're very close to your chopper gunner, the last thing that you're going to do is go run and hop inside a domination flag, or go run and hop inside a headquarters hill and then try to get those last 2 kills while everybody's running at you, right? If you're trying to get those 2 extra kills and it's pretty stressful and it's pretty intense, you're probably going to camp on a head glitch somewhere and you're going to try very hard to get those 2 kills, and you're not going to think about the objective so much. So that's the problem that I have with kill streaks. In my opinion, point streaks were probably the perfect way to do it. So with point streaks, if you got a kill, you would earn a point. If you captured an objective, you would get a point. If you got a kill inside an objective, you might get 1.5 points or something. So point streaks I thought were perfect because it promoted getting kills, but it also promoted playing the objective. Kill streaks, I just don't like the fact that they're going back to this, simply because it slows the game down and it makes people focus more on kills and less on objectives. So I think you're going to notice when the beta comes out here in a month that if you get down in domination, say you're down 20, 30 points, and you keep running at the flag trying to cap it, but you have teammates with sniper rifles on the side just trying to get their kill streaks, it gets super irritating, super annoying, and then that makes you just want to go play something else. So I don't know how this is going to play in the community, but for me personally, it's just not one of my favorite things. The next thing that I want to talk about, which is probably the most controversial thing in this game, is that you no longer have a constant minimap up in the left-hand side of your screen. So there's some good and some bad to this. Let's go ahead and let's break it down. First of all, the only way that you can get your minimap is through either earning a personal UAV at 3 or earning a team UAV at 4 kills. So you can only get that based on kill streaks. So if you get 3 kills, then you can get a personal UAV that just works for yourself. If you elect to go with the team UAV, you can get that at 4 kills and it would unlock for anybody. So the thing that I don't like about this is with the new map design, I think this is going to make for a super hectic game. So I get the fact that they wanted to change it up a little bit, but I use my minimap and I look at my minimap almost more than I look at my screen. It seems to me like a huge part of this game is focused on realism, and I totally get that. If you were in real life, you wouldn't have that minimap up in your top left-hand corner, but so much in-game knowledge and so much in-game sense comes from the ability to look at your minimap that I just think that the change for this might be a little bit too drastic. So just kind of as a short example real quick, say you're watching a choke point right in the middle of the map and you see on your minimap that your teammates are also doing that to the left and to the right. Well, the only way that you know to rotate, say the guy on the left ends up dying and that choke point is now open, the only way that you know how to go ahead and rotate and check that choke point is by looking at your minimap and seeing that he dies, especially if you're not playing with the full team. If you're playing with the full team, you could go ahead and you can communicate that to your teammates. Hey, I died, this left point's open, so on and so forth. But if you're not playing with a full team, then basically you're not going to know anything that's going on around you. Do we have this part locked down? Should I retreat? Should I push forward on this side, or what? You have no idea how to play the game just because you don't know what's happening around you. So I don't know if it'll stay this way or if it'll change. I'm hoping that maybe it changes a little bit, but who knows? Again, it's just an alpha build. We'll see what happens going forward. The next huge thing that I want to talk about, which is another thing that I just really don't like, are the maps in this game. So from everything that we've learned, from everything that we've seen, and from everything that they've talked about, you no longer have the typical 3-lane maps. So for anybody that's not aware of this, basically Call of Duty maps are designed in a way that kind of looks like an H with a line through it. There are 3 flanks, or there are 3 routes. So there's a left side, a middle route, and then a right side. So there are your 3 main ways to navigate from one side of the map to the other: the left, the middle, and the right. And then there's basically a line going through the middle of it. So if you're pushing up on the left side and you start getting shot at, you can cut through and get to that center lane. That's basically how Call of Duty maps are designed. I'll go ahead and I'll put a picture up on screen to kind of show what that looks like. So it's no longer like that anymore. And they wanted to promote realism. The problem with realism is, again, if you mix the realism part of the maps without having a UAV, is that you definitely, even more so, have no idea what's happening around you. A few of these maps that I've seen, somebody's going to go into a building. So Just for an example, I've watched somebody go to get into a building, and there were 4 or 5 different ways that they could get into that building. There was the door, there were 3 windows, there were 2 windows up top. So we're talking about all these different ways that you could get into a map. And while that's great for if you're talking about real life, if you're obviously a soldier and you want to get into a building, there's a ton of different ways that you could do it, right? But for an arcade simulator like Call of Duty, it just doesn't seem to work that well. Now, they said that they wanted to focus on power positions, so this kind of reminds me of Halo, right? Back in the Halo days, if you're talking about the map Ascension, there were some big towers that were major power points. So in Halo, yeah, that was great. That's the way that game was designed. But in Call of Duty, there's just some things that you don't really want to mess with. And I feel like the typical 3-lane map is one of them. Who knows? Maybe it'll be great. I feel like this gives you a little bit more of a Battlefield feel. It's just one of those things. So if you mix in not having a constant UAV, the differential in the maps, no longer having the 3-lane maps, and the fact that the game plays a little bit slower, we're starting to get pretty far away from the typical Call of Duty, and we're starting to get a little bit more into this different kind of diversion. So I don't know. Who knows how it'll play, but I strongly prefer maps that are the typical 3 lanes, and any maps in the past that haven't been the typical 3 lanes, I've just hated them. Like Chinatown comes to mind, even though that was kind of like that, but there's just all these different routes all over the place, and it ends up just being chaos, and I end up skipping it every time. One other thing to touch on real quick there are the maps where you have to use night vision. So this looks completely real, and while you're watching it, it looks amazing, right? The only way that you know where you're looking is because when you aim down sight, you get a laser, and that's how you shoot people. But for me, this is just going to be one of those gimmick things that I hate. Every time I see it, I'm going to skip it. I'm going to choose a different game. It looks great. It looks amazing, but it's super gimmicky to me. I'm not even going to take that much time to talk about it. Some people might like it, but I think the majority of classic Call of Duty players are going to look at this, they're going to skip it, and they're going to want more of your typical style. Next thing I want to touch on, which is something I really like, is that you no longer have the pick 10 system. So essentially you have a primary weapon, a secondary weapon, you have your 3 perks, a lethal, and a tactical, and that's it. Now, the problem with this is that in the perks, there really only seemed to be 1 in each category that were useful. So the first perk, you had double time. Essentially, that just makes your sprint duration last longer, and it lets you do it again quicker. So everybody's going to be using double time in the first perk. The second perk, you have Ghosts, which means you're going to be invisible to UAVs and stuff like that. So obviously everybody that, at least in competitive, is going to pick Ghost. And then the third perk, the big one, was Cold-Blooded, so you can't be seen by score streaks and stuff like that. So there are some other things in there. There's like Scavenger and whatnot, but for me, I'm just always going to use those 3 perks. I'm never going to deviate from that. So the perks will be something where you'll basically just copy them one from the other, unless you're playing Search and Destroy, right? If you're playing Search and Destroy, then you need Dead Silence. But the perks, they seem a little bit more useless. I do like the fact that you have your typical tactical, you have your typical lethal, so you're always going to have some sort of stun or flash or something like that. You're always going to have some sort of claymore or nade or sticky grenade or something like that. That I do like. You're always going to have a sidearm, so basically a pistol. Now, the thing that I think is most exciting is a lot of those issues that we talked about in terms of perks. So there's no longer toughness, right? There's no longer something that makes your gun flinch less, stuff like that. What they've done is they've went ahead and they've taken a lot of those abilities and they've put them into Gunsmith. So essentially what they've done is they've let you take your M4 and put anywhere from 30 to 60 different attachments on this thing. Now, obviously you can't put 60 different things on your gun, but if you want to put a different sight on, there's no longer 1 or 2 to choose from. There might be 10 to choose from. If you want to go ahead and put a different barrel on your gun, maybe you don't just have long barrel or a silencer to choose from anymore. There are 7 or 8 of them that you get to pick from. Now, one of the cool things about this is that based on the attachment you pick, there are always positives, but there are also negatives. So just for an example, say you want to put on a barrel that makes your gun sway less. So when you're aiming down sight, it sways less. Well, if you want to do that, you might be trading out some ADS time. Whereas if you want to make your gun ADS faster, so kind of like quick draw, that's going to take away another part. It might recoil more, or it might sway more, or something like that. So I feel like a lot of the things that used to be hidden in perks have now gone into the gunsmith. So it's kind of neat. What you're going to see is eventually there are going to be things that are better than the other. So everybody's going to end up using the same thing. For example, there are some things for SMGs that you put on your gun that makes you run faster. So if we're talking about how the gameplay seems much slower and a little bit clunkier, I think especially with the pro scene and the competitive scene, you're going to see everybody basically running SMGs because speed basically trumps everything. So you're going to see everybody running SMGs. They're going to see all the attachments that make you run faster, and everything else that they're putting into it won't really matter much. So for the casual gamer, so for somebody that's playing just normal public matches, it's going to be great. It's going to be able to change your experience of the game in a bunch of different ways. But if you're looking to play competitive, you're going to want to get around as fast as you can, and I think that's going to be what most people choose from. So I think those are most of the big things. Some other little things, the audio profiles seem really good, so the sounds sound great. For example, whether you're shooting indoors or outdoors, the sounds change. You can hear bullets hitting on the floor, so casings hitting the floor, stuff like that. From what I've heard, from what I've seen, guns are super loud and your footsteps are very silent. So that's just mixing things, right? That's nothing I'm going to gripe on because that can be changed. My guess would be that they're going to get that a lot. So a lot of feedback from the beta that you can't really hear footsteps, and that'll be changed. But the audio profiles sound amazing. The gunplay feels good. So in terms of recoil, it is predictive recoil. So if you're using an M4 and you want to really get good with the M4, it has predictive recoil, which means every time you pull the trigger, it's going to recoil in the same exact pattern. So you can go ahead and you can train yourself to get used to that recoil and really become an expert on that gun. A couple other things. The graphics engine has been improved. It's basically, I believe that they said it's 5 times better than the one that they had in the past. So basically what that does, it allows for much larger maps. It allows them to render things a lot more efficiently. So graphics engine is a huge thing. That's why the game looks so nice. That's why it seems to play pretty well. And that's why you can now have a 10v10 and a 20 versus 20 mode, stuff like that. Another thing is that there's no longer a useful stim shot like there is in Black Ops 4. In Black Ops 4, I love the fact that you had to heal yourself. So if you're in a gun battle, you could prioritize reloading versus healing yourself, stuff like that. You basically had full control over how healed you were. I don't like the fact that we're reverting back to the old method. There is a stim shot in the game. It replaces either your lethal or the tactical. I'm not sure which one, but it's not very effective and it doesn't work quite as well as the other one. So I don't know. Without the whole stim shot, I just feel like you're never going to know exactly when all of your health is back, and that I kind of have an issue with. I like to be in complete control of everything that was going on in the game, so not being able to be in control of my health is a little bit of an issue. There is stopping power in the strike packages, so that is what it is. That's basically you earn your kill streak and you win, right? If you have stopping power, that just makes your bullets a little bit more lethal than everybody else's, which means you can win gun battles a little bit easier. That I don't really like. I do like the fact that all of the operators are the same. So there's no longer, here, you can be Prophet and you can get Tempest and then you can completely take over the game because you can hit people with this electric fake gun type specialist. I don't know. I just don't like all that stuff. I like the fact that everybody's the same. All of your operators have the same hitboxes. They all look the exact, well, they look differently, but all the hitboxes are the same. So I like the fact that they went ahead and they made that change. I heard that this game has motion blur, which I hate. Anybody that's played a competitive game ever, it doesn't matter which game it is, you always turn off motion blur, and it seems like that's a part of this photorealism that they kind of have going on here. Hopefully they put in some sort of setting where you can take that away. And with that, I think I have exhausted all of the major talking points that I wanted to get through. Overall, for me, the book is kind of out on this game. Obviously, I'm going to play it. I've played every one of them. I love Call of Duty. I will always buy them. I will always go back and play them. But I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy it. I don't like that it's slowed down. I don't like that you don't have the typical maps. I don't like that you don't have a UAV. So if you like Battlefield, if you like games that are a little bit more realistic and less arcade type shooter, this might be a game for you. Oh, also, I don't like the fact that there are doors. It just seems pointless to me. Please take out the ability. Obviously, this is something that they focused on. They're not going to take it away. But doors, they're just loud. They give away your position. It basically, it requires less map strategy, and that I just don't really like. But overall, we'll see where it goes. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something. Please, let's start a discussion down in the comments below. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to have a discussion with you. Do you like some of these changes? Do you hate some of these changes? Obviously, we're probably the most of us are just going to go out and buy it and play it. That's just what we do with Call of Duty, but I'm interested in hearing from you also. So thank you guys so much. I know this is a longer video, but hopefully it provided some useful information. And with that, I will catch you in the next one. Thanks so much. We'll see you.